Good evening and welcome to the 14th webinar of our Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam series. Today we have our webinar with the theme Investing in Sustainable Projects, and we are very happy to say that we have the privilege to have Sri Atul Juvle, who is TEDx speaker and counsel. But as we start the session with the Institute's anthem.
तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय.
Now I request CMA Dr. Aditi Dasgupta to introduce our speaker for today's evening. Over to you, Aditi.
Thank you, sir. Well, it's our immense pleasure and privilege to introduce Sir, Mr. Atul Juvle, sir. Sir has a professional experience of over 3 decades as the General Counsel and Compliance Officer. He has worked with the Bank of India, Shriyam Securities, Tata International, OTIS Elevator, HDFC Life, Godrej Agrovet, and Chandler India. Presently, Sir is independent director with ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel Group and Consulting GC. Well, talking about the accolades and awards, Sir has been featured as the top GC in the Forbes India Legal Power list for 3 consecutive years from 2020 to 2022. EY has recognized Sir as the Ethics Champion of the Year 2019, and ACFE Mumbai has recognized him as a CFE of the Year 2021. Sir has also featured in the top 100 India GC list from 2016 to 2023. Academically, Mr. Atul Juvle, after completing his MCom, CIIB, FCS and LLB, has done his MFM from Jawaharlal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies. He is also a certified fraud examiner from US and member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, UK. We welcome you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aditi. Thank you very much, Dr. Divendu. And it's a great honor to be on a platform. And thank you very much for this opportunity. Am I audible, Divendu, perfectly?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, thank you very much. So give me a minute to share my particular presentation, and we can get into the topic. Is presentation visible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. So investing in sustainable projects, it's a 14th webinar, and I'm happy to join for this subject. We start as a professional with the disclaimer that the views expressed are personal and not should be taken as opinions for investing. If there are any opportunities, please consult your financial consultant. So investing. When we talk about investing, I always remember 2 gurus of the investing. One is Benjamin and other is Warren Buffett. So Benjamin Graham said, people who invest make money for themselves. People who speculate make money for their brokers. And which is the so this is a important from Benjamin Graham. Benjamin Graham is a guru of Warren Buffett. I am more concentrating on Warren Buffett, who said that if you are not thinking of owning the stock for 10 years, don't even think about owning it for 10 minutes. So it's all about, when you talk about investing, it's a long-term investment. So let's get into the topic, that is sustainable investing. So from the stock market investing, we are coming to sustainable investing. What is sustainable investing is, they are not only looking at the financial result, but they are also looking at long-term environmental or social value. By sustainable investing, when we invest for the sustainable projects, we not only ensure that particularly short term, but more focus is on the long term and how the project contributes to the society. And that's why I changed the picture to particularly green, where green investing we have to talk about. Now, question comes to mind that about the today's topic. So today's topic, why to invest in sustainable projects. Okay. So if why is clear, then definitely we can be sure about particularly how to do it and why we want to invest it. So first, understand the change in the socio-economic pattern. The millennials have become the prominent in the society form, and they demand particularly good companies. And what is a good company definition? The companies which are following ESG, environmental, social, and governance. Today, millennials have got that privilege to join and leave the company if they are not happy. So number one is a demand from the why I should invest in a sustainable project, because the employees or people with whom you are going to work, or maybe people you are going to depend, they want that kind of sustainability. Now, impact investors. So after that major particularly people, the second most important element comes is the investors. Investors want to invest by looking at that ethical investing. And ethical investing means which is compliance with the sustainability, which is a compliance with the ESG. Not only that, but if you want to expand today, so if you want to expand today, funding companies are asking for that positive impact, and they want the companies to follow ESG as well as sustainability guidelines. Fourth one is, as you know, that regulations also guide our investments in the sustainability project. Now, regulations, they are made actually compulsory for all the companies which are having the specific turnover criteria. It is also there across the globe. It is not only India is forcing, but regulations are there for the making the disclosures. Socio-economic pressure. Socio-economic pressure, all kinds of stakeholders which are involved in the company, they want to, particularly customers, vendors, they also want a company which is following the sustainability, particularly guidelines, or maybe ESG guidelines. This last piece of bank and institutional financing cost is yet to come, but the day is not far when the bank and financial institution will charge 1% more than the market rate which is applicable to other borrowers. This was the case when 25 years back, when companies were not implementing the particularly GRC and all, financial institutions were used to charge 1% more interest other than the particular which is applicable to the borrowers. So financing cost will become more. There is a concept of triple bottom line in the sustainability. What is triple bottom line? It is not only focusing on the financial performance and generating profit, but also the organization will be rated on social economic impacts, social and environmental impacts. So this is very important. Triple bottom line concept is given by this particularly sustainability guidelines or the SDG, we can say. It is important to become familiar with the sustainable investing practices so that we can determine where to invest based on our values and investing trend. I am going to talk about investing, but as a CMA, we are delivering the services, we are becoming employees, we are taking the positions at the top. So there also we have to ensure that we should know what are the particularly investing practices so that we are clear on the compliance also. So it is not only the other people, but we also want to understand what is that. Okay. So that's a basic actually why to invest in sustainable projects. Now, when we talk about the sustainability investment, there are few myths which I want to tackle today. The reason is that whenever there are particularly myths, we should know what are those myths and what are the excuses given for not following these guidelines or not having the investments in that. So number one is that there are two major particularly myths. First one is that everyone says that it is only for idealists. It means that who is idealist, who doesn't want to make profit? It's not. Okay, it's not, and I'm going to deal with it in the future slides also. So here it's all for all the investors who want to invest for the long term with an eye on future. So it is not only for the idealists, but it is for all. And I'm going to take two slides on that, how it can help also to others. Because the issue is that the second myth, which talks about you have to sacrifice returns. The second myth is you have to sacrifice return. Again, it is not by the theory. I am explaining with the data that it is not true. So these two, if we tackle, then I think there will be positive mindset to go for the investment in sustainable project. So if I have to talk about India story, I have taken 12th July 24 Upstock report, and which says that in January 2747 crore were there in the ESG, particularly funds, ESG mutual funds, whereas in March 24, this has grown to 9,753 crores with a CAGR of 36%. From January 20 to March 24, it is very absolutely, it is as above, particularly equal to par with the other mutual funds. So it is that myth that we have to sacrifice the particular returns is not true. And this is by the figures, so that nobody can say that theoretically somebody is preaching, but it is by the figures. Now, after India story, we can also check about the particularly overseas story. Overseas story is also good. Overseas story says that it is grown from 2017 to 2022. Even though there was in between there was a pandemic, but in Europe it is grown. They have taken the performance at the end of the 2023, and it has given the median return of 12.6 versus 8.6 for the traditional funds. So it has outperformed the mutual fund in the particularly this area has outperformed the extended across equity and fixed income funds asset class. So this we have to take out in our mind that when I am going for investing in sustainable project, we have to sacrifice returns. Not at all. And not only this with returns, our particularly future is guaranteed. Most important is we are talking of sustainability. So when we are talking about returns have to be sustainable. And that's why this second point I stress more. Now let's get into the third particularly complaint. This complaint is actually, again, when I don't want to do, I can find out good number of excuses. It is one of them, but it's a majorly coming. I have covered only 5. There are more than 7, but I have covered 5 because we have got time limitations. So I am just covering why I am covering that myth, so that we are convinced that at the end of this webinar, we are convinced that investing in sustainable project is absolutely a good investment. So measuring sustainability impact is not possible. It is complex. but we can certainly measure this as the impact. Okay. Information collation, yes, of course, it is certainly enormous. The reason is that we are starting. We are starting, and that's why everything requires efforts. But once the system starts, I think everything will fall in line. And that's where the gaps and error may creep in, because when we are depending on the enormous data, we are going to different business heads in the company. And that's where the challenge is there also. But once we do it for 1 or 2 years, I think everything will become routine. Not only that, simultaneously, analytical tools are also being developed and constantly improved, because the regulator not only wants, but it is required. This is a need for the day for the sustainability. Rating agencies use ESG criteria to access sustainability performance. So it is not that measuring not possible is a only lame excuse, and it's not true. Now, number 4 is one need to be expert to understand investing in particularly sustainability project. And I actually, this excuse, I laugh at it. The reason is that we know that how many people are investing in the stock market and mutual fund without knowing the particularly details of it, without having the background of it. So one need not be expert in investing, because you are investing your own money. Okay, as if you are investing, there should not be a problem. So here the point is that need to be expert to invest in investing in sustainable project. Answer is no. It's not necessary. Person investing in stock market or mutual fund scheme possesses basic knowledge that it is a mutual fund or equity, and uses market information, matrix rating. Same thing can be done, but there is a word of a caution. There is a word of a caution is that if you are going for the startup project, or if you are going for the investing in startup. Now, investing in startup is are of two types. One is that you are angel investor. Angel investor comes with the office and staff and the experts, but you are individual investor, or what they call it as a crowd investing. What is crowd investing is that few individual come together and invest in the startup. There you have to have deep dive on the intricacies. Whether my startup activity will be in the particularly the meeting the guidelines of SDG as well as the particular ESG guidelines. And but same is not neither complex or difficult to understand. Once you are starting a new idea, you are going to invest a time. Before investing money, you are going to review that. So yes, for startup project and startup investing in the startup project, one has to deep dive on intricacy. But if you are investing on the mutual fund, if you are investing in the stock market on the basis of sustainability projects, I don't see there is a problem. Now, last and fifth, I am taking. As I said, there are more than 7. I have taken 5 myths so that we are convinced. Actually, we should get convinced why investing in sustainable project becomes a right investment. So there is nothing like 100% sustainable project. Now the issue is, we also know that there is nothing like 100% in any kind of business, any kind of project. So there comes the particularly some kind of explanation. Yes, right. Because every company will have different parts in the operations, like sourcing of raw material, sourcing of people, sourcing of labor on the site if required, how the material is transported, how it is distributed, all such stages and steps, whether passed through sustainability tests, difficult to confirm. Let me tell you, it's difficult to confirm that all the stages, and we have seen the regulatory actions on the companies for not following at one piece or one part of the operation these guidelines actually. So this is true, but that does not mean that 100% business is not sustainable, or maybe operations or project is not sustainable project. But the awareness has started and things are improving. We have seen that changes in India also. Simple small change of not using the plastic bag. Now it has taken a time, but it has happened now. If you go with the plastic bag in the market, people look at you as a particularly illiterate person. Okay, so this will come, but we are on the way. This is not a destination, this is a journey. And this journey, every passenger, each one of us has to complete our obligation. And there is an obligation. It's not that the everything will change overnight. It is taking time, but things are working in the right direction. So the question is that, okay, if I'm investing, why I should worry? Still I should worry or not? Or should I leave this worry to the government? That's a question actually. Because when we are talking about any kind of particularly the guideline or any, first thing is that why I should worry. So why I should worry is that it has come to individual level. Climate change, everybody is facing, right? Due to climate change, as you know that this is a world population that they will have to relocate within, and we even India, as we know that how population migrates because of the climate change, as well as the other aspects also. Okay, so climate change is affecting everybody's life. It's not only the particularly one part of the country is affected. It is affecting everywhere. Unseasoned rains, the cold, atmosphere change. Everybody is facing. So that's one part. Why I should worry? Water contamination or shortage. Now we know that how the major city, one of the major city faced shortage during the May, and it is a happening city, IT city. Okay, it did face a shortage, and we also know that there are almost 20 cities which may not have water by 2050. It means to say they are drinking water. Okay, so water shortage, water contamination. So this is coming to my house. It is not stopping at say one place or maybe outside my house. Poverty across globe, I will not talk because we know that, and we are fortunate, we are qualified, so we are above that. But this reminds me my college time in economics when we were learning. They say that there is a famous saying by the economists that the anywhere property is danger poverty. I'm sorry, poverty anywhere is dangerous to prosperity anywhere. Unemployment anywhere is dangerous to employment everywhere, because then the people are going to migrate and then definitely there will be a problem. So though we are lucky, we are qualified, we are above poverty line, but it is a risk, which is the future risk. And government has implemented, and we are having the target at 2030 that we will not, there will be majority population will be above poverty line. Migration, we have discussed. Migration is because of many reasons. So migration depends on the development as well as other factors. Access to food and hunger. We are also having the one of these two major, particularly SDGs, that the poverty as well as the particularly hunger will not be there by 2030. Wars and military conflicts, we are lucky. Recently, we had our neighbor military conflict. But can we keep quiet? As I mentioned about poverty, the war anywhere again is a dangerous to our it's a neighbor country, and we all know that what is the risk happening because of that. Okay, so war and military conflicts, we are lucky that we don't have, but we all know that how Russia Ukraine affected the business. Okay, so there is an impact on the countries even if they are not in the war. Human right violation is a topic which is coming up from the developed countries. It is surprising that it is coming from the developed countries, and it will definitely will be discussed here also. So why I should worry? Because it is coming, it is affecting me directly. It is not that I can keep quiet. Okay, so that's why I should worry about this particularly sustainability, sustainable projects. Now, sustainable, this is just, I know that we all know particularly. I am just highlighting 5 P's. And in 5 P's, as I said, I want that we want peace and prosperity together. We don't want only prosperity and problems. We want prosperity with peace. And the last P is a partnership, which we always forget that we have to participate. We have to participate in the particularly the particularly sustainability development goals, and we have to play our part of it. And why it is required? Because no one should left behind, including me. So 2030 is the deadline, and it is there for actually majority of the countries. This is just one slide. I know that you are aware of 17 goals. This just particularly SDG or sustainable development goals. Just slide for the one glance. I will not discuss this. Now, surprisingly, SDG applies to all the countries. They are universal because issues and challenges are similar. Whatever challenges India is facing, the other countries are also facing, which are developed. And that's why the SDG applies to all the countries. They are universal. Okay. Reporting for the corporates have been made mandatory 2024 onwards all across globe in the phased manner. Now, I want to tell you that it is not only India that making for the compulsory for the 1,000 companies, but it is there in the Europe also, it is there in the USA also. So 2024 onwards, all across. Today, why we are discussing this investing in the sustainable project? Because if you are starting a company, it will be mandatory because nobody wants to, though person can start with small, but everybody wants to become unicorn. And if you want to become unicorn, definitely, particularly, we have to worry about these standards. Now, selecting investing opportunity. Okay. So we are talking of investing, and let us discuss short briefly investing opportunity. So when I want to go for the sustainability project, investing in a sustainability project, equity and mutual fund are the options. The first criteria, which is a very easy criteria, and doesn't require expertise, that negative or exclusion method. Avoid a specific sector or specific company which are not in compliance with the sustain or which are shown as the red sectors or red companies. Okay, I can give one example. One of the conglomerate in India, uh, perfectly managed, profit making for last more than 4 decades. The share price was same for 3 or 4 years just because it was not meeting the criteria actually. Okay, so this is how the impact happens to big companies also. Positive and best performing is a requires certain efforts because you have to select. So proactive review of the company sectors performing in domain, disclosing ESG parameters and score, selecting from the defined universe will be the idea. Triple bottom line concept I have explained you, and we have to look forward, particularly whenever we talk about the company for employment, for the particularly consulting, for even starting the business. Okay, so triple bottom line concept will be there in the mind always when we start a business. That's financial performance, social performance, environmental impact. Now, someone can say that we are CMA, so we are starting service company, service based business. Does environmental impact comes? I can tell you that environmental impact comes to every individual. Forget about the CMA or company. But the problem is that am I aware about that environmental impact? I can use simple example that mobile or laptop everyone uses. The person who is qualified or maybe doing something even not qualified also uses the mobile. We have know that we now because of the digitalization, even the vegetable seller also uses that scan and call. The issue of environmental comes there whether you while discarding your mobile phone, are you particularly taking care of environmental compliance? There is an environmental compliance because it is a e-waste, they call it e-waste. The point I'm making is that it is affecting, as I cover the slide, that why I should worry, because it is affecting me as an individual. And that's why I want to cover that. Which project I should choose? Should I choose to invest or start business in today's VUCA world? This is the question every time comes actually. This is a question every time comes that which project should we select for the starting of the business in VUCA world? Because today I start a business and tomorrow it becomes a luckily because of some innovation or maybe change in the computer, laptop services, app services, systems, my business will be. So what I should start as it? So there actually sustainable projects provides you some kind of guarantee. Sustainable projects provides you some kind of guarantee that your projects will not become particularly will be surviving in the VUCA world. So let's look at the projects which are there. So pollution control reduction is a common project, and this everybody knows that GHG emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. So pollution control business or maybe projects, if it is their starting up and investing, we can consider that particularly project. Renewable energy, green energy is also coming up, and it is becoming, even societies have started renewable energy, green energy. Wind power, wind power is a big business, yes, but solar energy, everybody is trying. Even the homes, bungalows are having this, and the buildings also having solar energy. Waste reduction, recycling is another aspect where projects can be taken up. Green transportation, as we know that we are already having in two metro cities, particularly green transportation. Mumbai is going for the metro, and other major cities also going for the metro. One of the reason is that the local, particularly the cars emissions will be reduced. Hydroelectricity is a expensive, particularly investment, but this list is indicative, and one can go on and on, particularly to find out which are the sustainable projects, because we know that the particularly sustainable project has to go through that ESG, and ESG slide gives you maximum ideas on the the particularly which industry will be there in the which industries can survive in the VUCA world. Just give me a sec. So I am coming to actually my presentation, end of the presentation. We have to be worried. That's why I wanted to cover this. The when we are talking about this big particular ESG and all, there are two kinds of crimes also are coming up, and surprisingly, one of the particularly international fund also was fined in that greenwashing. Greenwashing is nothing but that the particularly the companies are fooling or misleading information that products and services of the company impact positively on environment, whereas it is not. And that's why that's the in green there is a gray color is given. And though here in India there are no particularly violations reported, but I am sure that we may follow. I'm sorry, my mistake. I'm actually praying that should not be there. But as we know that there are violations overseas, we follow the same suit particularly, because I was surprised to have that particularly international fund into that greenwashing. Okay, blue washing is a similar word, similar connoting, where companies' commitment to social practices, responsible practices, they make the deceptive marketing, particularly on the commitment to the responsible social practices. Now here there is a major area, I can tell you that. The reason is that why I'm just going in detail. CSR, corporate social responsibility, the regulator is tightening up with now the particularly regulation that we have to show that end use is done. And that's the reason that particularly in CSR, the funds are given, because funds is a compulsory funds goes out, but whether they are used. So blue washing, there can be a gray room for the violation if it comes out. And we have seen that particularly violations are not on the usage of the fund, but yes, violations are there on the responsibility corporate social CSR practices. So greenwashing and blue washing, one should know. I will just go back to my particularly slide so that we can talk more, and then maybe questions I can take. Just give me a second. So here actually we are working on these 17 goals, and there is a good area related to this. I am not saying that we can work on that zero number and zero hunger and no poverty. See, good health and well-being. These are all 17 goals, and we know that particularly even good companies also there are areas for improvement. So we have to take it forward whenever we are working with the companies. We can particularly talk about it that goals are there and a country is committed to that. Our nation is committed to that sustainability of the goal. 5 P's I have done, 17 goals. So if there are questions, I can take.
Sir, you may continue, sir. Some case studies you may give.
So yeah, 1 minute. Give me a second. So when we are talking about the investing actually, so the best ideas to take from the ESG parameters, and if we talk about all the three verticals, there is a good actually scope for the investing. And one of the area which is coming up as a particularly concern in the uh, Western countries is the supply chain management. The reason is that people, that is third party vendors, or where the particularly violations are done. So there we have to be careful when we, and in my slide also I have mentioned that 100% sustainability project is not possible because certain things we depend on the particularly supply chain, we depend on somebody, and there we have to be careful. Or maybe we are depending on the contract manufacturer. Maybe we are depending on the contract, particularly contractor for the employees. There also we have to take care of particularly the sustainability guidelines, whether they are met or not. And where the particularly I know at least three or four cases where actually the export consignments have been sent back because they could not come the qualify for the supply chain requirement. The supply chain was not following the ESG guidelines. So if we are particularly investing in the sustainable projects, these kind of things we have to look for. Yes, as I mentioned, the particularly we are depending on the infrastructure available on the in the country, and that's why. But we can take care if we are aware of the particularly rules and that's why ESG guidelines can be definitely of use in that kind of supply chain issue. Even if there is a issue, for example, because of the war, Russia-Ukraine war, supply chain was impacted, and there the qualities, particularly quality of the third-party vendors, were not up to the mark. That time also we have to ensure that we follow the guidelines. The when we depend on the third-party contractor, there is a major chunk in India who works as a third-party contractor employees, where we have to see at least we meet the legal parameters. ESG parameter is a next thing, but first thing is that are we meeting the legal parameters, or the payment which we make we doesn't go to the employees on the third party role. So these are the two actually aspects in supply chain. The third party vendor, one more aspect is seen as a particularly ESG guideline, that whether there is a opportunity or maybe there is a gap where or loophole for the corruption. So third party vendors, particularly for the good companies, definitely, and we have three or four cases where the third party vendors, and they were reputed companies, by the way. Okay, they were caught particularly violating this third party vendor supply chain management. So that's another thing. If I have to talk about board practices also, there are violations, particularly there are cases which are reported for not following the basic parameters which are laid down for the board companies, board meetings, and the corporate governance. So that's wrong actually. If we are investing or maybe we are starting the particularly any sustainable project, we must ensure that these basic compliances at least. This is the first stage. It is not particularly, I am not talking of ESG parameter, but I am talking about the basic parameters of the legal. Human right is coming up as a important topic all across, particularly world. India, it is not yet taken. Is there actually some, but at the same time, as we know, it is not taken that particularly to that extent where the particularly world is moving. So human rights is coming up as a topic where we have to be conscious on the particular engagement of the people. We have seen the 5 Ps, and one of the important P is the people in the sustainability project as well as ESG. And forget about sustainability and ESG. If we want a quality product, if we want a quality service, we need to have a quality people, engage people. Engage people is possible when we follow rules and regulations. So any questions if
Yes, yes. Sir, one question has come. What was the process followed in the organizations you have worked for sustainable investing?
so process is particularly we check, we do the due diligence, particularly due diligence of the projects when we go for the investing. There are two kinds of investing. One kind of investing is that we are investing in the mutual fund. So if you are going for the mutual fund, we are going for the particularly the mutual fund which are investing in the on as per ESG guidelines. Stock market is not allowed in the corporate investment because it becomes an investment activity. But project, if we talk about, then we are investing, we are doing the back end process, particularly for the projects which are taken under CSR, where we are investing, and we are investing for the purpose of the compliance, not only the compliance but beyond that. Like we had tied up with the colleges for the right candidates, the payment of their fees, including the engineering level as well as IIT level. So when we are talking of investing, it is a conscious investment done by the company, and it is for the betterment of the society. I want to take a pride that the 3-4 companies I have worked where we were following the ethical practices as well as investing guidelines. I am not saying that what is available today, but they were followed for the betterment of the society, and there were the activities of social responsibilities were there before, well before the rule came in the Companies Act.
Sir, another question is that what are the list of ESG regulations followed in a corporate?
The ESG regulations actually, if we talk about the environmental environmental piece is highly regulated. And as I have given you example when while talking that every individual has to follow that e-waste particularly. But environmental is regulated. Governance piece is regulated by if, the Companies Act as well as the LODR if you are listed company. And board process is really covered by the Companies Act. Along with that, yes, the rules and regulations applicable, particularly like IRDA for the insurance, banking, RBI. So these guidelines are made when we are talking of ESG regulations. And then there is a checklist which is followed. Even in the board practices, I have given you example of one of the company recently paid a fine, huge fine for the not holding the board meeting. So that see, we have to be having the checklist and updated laws should be followed particularly.
Sir, another question has come. What are the punitive action against for not complying with the ESG regulations?
See, ESG regulation, as I said, it is not one piece. So there are different pieces in this. So in environmental implementation is very strong, and in environment, the actions are also fine and action. Both the actions are particularly heavy. In governance, we are starting now. If I have to talk about last 2 years, the governance, there are good number of actions against our fellow colleagues, individual also and companies also. Good number of actions. If we go with the NFRA, if we go with the MCA, there are good number of actions happening. So in ESG, there is no one legislation covering ESG, but there will be pieces of legislation, and regulator has become now active. One of the reason is that because of artificial intelligence usage, they can find out, they can discover the violations very soon. So that's how the particularly ESG punitive actions are happening. And whenever I speak, I always say that last 3 years, if you see, it has become actually active, and there are violations and there are fines also imposed on the directors, KMPs, as well as the companies.
Another question has come. Could there be any duplication of investment on CSR and ESG by a corporate?
That is possible, but the companies which follow, I mentioned to you, the particularly our companies were following the CSR well before it became the guideline. Now the question is that even I am spending as a CSR legally, can I market it as a ESG? That is a question mark. But that depends on the company's policy and all. So legally, it is possible, but very ethically is possible because I am showing that particular investment as a particularly I am doing it as a ESG ground. But the CSR and the other ESG piece, which ESG piece is bigger than CSR. It is not only the particularly the social impact, but also the environmental impact on all, which cannot be covered under CSR. So if we are talking about the mixing of both and all, will not happen. If I am following the ESG, I have to follow ESG. Like I will give example, when you are opening the factory, you will have to go for the water conservation. That cannot be covered in the CSR. But whether I will take maximum benefit by marketing my brand under CSR, answer is yes.
So another question is that when you deal in international projects, do you have any disparity in ESG regulations with India?
No, I have not understood the question. Can you read please again?
Yeah, means what is the main difference between international projects ESG compliance with India?
So international project, the one of the major difference is that the implementation is very strong. So implementation, if you are going for the project, their implementation is strong, so we cannot do excuses. We cannot have way out. For example, I will give example. The Under international law, I cannot exclude my liability by appointing third party. So liability always remains with me. Whereas in India, what we do is that we appoint a contractor, labor, and then we create a third party. So that is not possible in international uh, But at the same time, most interesting is that in international also people lie. I have given an example. I didn't want to name the international fund, mutual fund, which paid the fine actually, which paid the fine for the greenwashing. So that's it actually. So it is not that violations are there only in India. Let me tell you frankly, because I have done the good number of courses in the overseas, and there are violations. So it is not that only India there are violations, but there are only thing when we go for the as an Indian we go for the project or international project we ensure that the everything is met. Otherwise, our brand name is affected because once you are blacklisted, it becomes difficult for the brand to stand again in the international market.
Sir, another question has come. Anti-ESG slogan is started by many countries. What is your take on it?
See, anti-ESG start. I will tell you why it is started. Let us understand that. See, one is that the particularly when the pandemic came, ESG became a particularly took back seat because there was the question of life, and from there people are taking forward that why it is required. Now, why it is required, as I mentioned in the presentation, that in simple, the particularly if you talk about individual, we are also experiencing the climate change. So if that is there, then why I should not follow the law? The water. We also because I in my childhood we have done that holy and all, but we are not doing today because the water shortage is there. We were not having that in my childhood. So that's the difference actually. So this particularly, I don't agree with that anti-ESG slogan. The reason is that yes, there are difficulties when we implement. When we go for the implementation, lot of information is required, lot of resources have to be given, lot of consultancy fee also has to be paid. But at the same time, once it is done, you are on the right track. So I don't particularly subscribe to that anti-slogan of ESG. Yes, few people are. See, example I will give. One example I can give. Now, the particularly tobacco industry that will continue, but that's not as per ESG parameters. Okay, so that will continue, but we are not subscribing into that. So I don't subscribe to anti-ESG say, and that's why I put a one slide that the mutual funds have done better or in line with the other mutual fund when they are doing ESG investing.
Sir, which country you feel is high in sustainability, and what do you feel about India based on your wide experience in international field?
See, the difference between other countries and India, there are two major differences. Okay. One difference is the population. So, for example, in US, if there is a garden or park, say it goes into 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers or 5 kilometers sometimes, but only 5 people visit. So you find that garden is clean. In our India, particularly when you have a garden, 5,000 people visit. So that's a problem. So if we are talk about the overseas, they will have the particularly the standards higher, living standard higher because less population. It's not that they are great and we are not, and we are also doing very well in the growth where they are not matching. And today I can tell you that the I will say before pandemic and today, the major good number of countries are suffering outside also. So today, if I have to talk that whether good and all, they are having their own other problems. They may not be ESG problem, but there are other problems.
Sir, another question has come. How do you see sustainability compliance in health insurance sector?
Sustainability in the health insurance sector, actually, the awareness is there with the public. Okay, if you are not aware, then you have to pay the cost. So health insurance the is a good way, but at the same time, just so sustainability is there. Is a health insurance is still not grown in India. Okay. The practices which the particularly insurance company have to follow, I think IRD is regulating very well. There is a good, particularly it's a sustainable business because still insurance percentage of the population is very low. Okay. So if I have to talk about sustainability, it's a good, particularly business or maybe project. Because if we are talking about insurance company, is a big, large project. But if I have to talk for the single individual, there are many other parts to that service provider, and then we can have the project.
Sir, another question is, will sustainable development and economic development go hand in hand?
It goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand. The reason is uh, the particularly the one is that country is committed. Some places, some kind of compromises. For example, infrastructure. So when we have to do infrastructure, there will be some kind of pollution will be there. So that aspect, if you leave that aspect in the development, otherwise everything can go hand in hand with the sustain. Why it is required to be go in hand in hand? The reason is otherwise we will not have the strong economy. For example, only we cannot have economic development and people are not having the good health or maybe basic facilities. So if we want to be called a developed country, definitely both will go together. It will not be one going fast and second we cannot look at. And that's why there is a awareness also. As you mentioned, the health insurance also, people are aware now, they are taking care.
Sir, another question is that sustainability these days has become too much compliance centric. What is your views?
So too much compliance centric is right word, but at the same time, we have to change the mindset. If we change the mindset, it will not become a compliance centric. Compliance centric means what? I want to do it because there is a compliance. But behaving with the others ethically, we avoid the corruption or bribing is a basic thing actually. So the compliance centric, there are few companies which are doing, but that's not a long term view. If you are going for the long term, you have to do it religiously. And that's why, the particularly good example, I will tell you the particularly companies or group which are there for more than 100 years. India has got two or three. Okay, which are there. Why they are there? Because they were following in some form. It is not that they were following 100% ESG, but they were following in the some form where other companies were not following, and that's why they are there today. Even though the group which is 100-year-old, which is there in India, the reason is that they were following some kind of governance and ethical guidelines.
Another question is that what, according to you, is the role of CMAs in undertaking sustainable projects?
There is the depends on the objective. As a the particularly employee, we can contribute. As a consultant, we can contribute. If I'm as a starting as an investor, I can go into a sustainability investment so that I am sure that it will be long term and I will not have to change the company when I'm investing. Lastly, if I'm startup, I have given the idea that if you are startup, today the question is that which business I should start. One is that I have the ability and I can start the business. But other is that I have money, I want to start a business. So that startup can be in the sustainability project where you are at least you are sure that it will not close down in 2 years time or 5 years time because it's required and it's a long term particularly. Everybody is talking about 2030, everybody is talking about 2047. So if you are starting a business, you have got that at least 10 years or 15 years time to continue that business in a sustainability project. And that's why I took actually one slide on the particularly what are the areas available. So CMA can definitely our colleagues, even CMA or CS or maybe chartered accountant also, they can put more. The CMAs are required on the factory costing and all that. There they can contribute. So we were talking of investing. Investing, I have clarified that, and then there is a good role to play for the CMA for individual benefit also and country's benefit also. When we are talking of sustainability investment, we are talking both, not only my interest but country's interest also.
Sir, your five-point advice to CMAs who wants to aspire in taking up sustainability opportunities.
So one is the investor. As an investor, I can because now the first point is the particularly I can start my own entrepreneur. Okay, because the employment is employ as we are changing the mix of the GDP, and there will be SME and MSME. So CMA can look at that in that opportunity. Second is the employment. In employment also, as the particularly my PPT covered, that the all the people wants to continue with the company which is having the ESG and sustainable. Third is the practice. When I do, I look at that ESG angle with the company and I can guide them as a consultant. Fourth is major aspect is the factory costing and all. There we can put the particularly. And lastly, personal investing. Personal investing. When I'm investing, there will be a few angel investor also in a CMA, so they can do do the investing in the sustainable projects.
Thank you, sir. I think you have covered exhaustively the areas where CMAs can play a vital role. Uh, just to say that we are having our upcoming webinars, and just to give you a glance of those events, we have published in our latest issue of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam series, which are going to be held in the next fortnight. Like on 23rd August, we are having the webinar of Learn to Live a Sustainable Professional Life, where CMA Dr. Jofi George, who is Company Secretary of Kerala State Industrial Development Corporation, would be gracing the occasion as the speaker for that event. We will have it on 23rd August at from 4 to 5:15 p.m. After that, we will be having on September 13, that is the second Friday of, as we do our Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam series, second and fourth Fridays. So on September 13th, we are having another event of green investing, which CMA Subhashish Ghosh would be taking, who is the GM of ITC Limited. And after that, we have our 17th webinar on 27th of September, where CMA Ram Ganesh R, who is the Company Secretary of Kerala Financial Corporation, would be speaking on ESG and PSUs. After that, we have another event on October 11th which is corporate social responsibility regulatory provisions, where Sri Naman Shah, who is director of Deloitte Haskins and Sales LLP, would be taking the session. And also after that, on 4th of Friday of October 25th, we have Chandrasekhar, CMA Chandrasekhar Chincholkar would be taking overview of green battery concepts and its future in enhancing sustainability in India. With obviously practical case studies he would be taking. After sessions would be published in the current issue of the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and Sukhino Bhavantu. You will get all the details. We have also our batch number 2 of the certificate course on ESG, which admission has already started. We request all the participants who are willing to join the session. And with this, I request our CMA Dr. Aditi Dasgupta to give a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Atul sir, for your presentation. Yes, our myths have definitely got busted, and we have learned about how investing in sustainable projects. And thank you for giving the answers to our questions as to why we should invest in sustainable projects, and giving us a great idea on this topic too. Well, I would thank our members who are present, without whose presence this program would not have been possible. I would thank our President, CMA BB Nayak sir, ICMAI. I would thank our Vice President, CMA Srinivasa Prasad sir, and I would thank CMA Dr. Ashish Thatte, Chairman SSB, and all the SSB members and the Secretariat of SSB for their motivation and support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the podiums. Thank you.
Thank you,
I've
sir.
seen the question. I'm seeing the questions now. Thank you. Thank you, Divendi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. With this, we are closing today's session. Thank you all.
Thank you.